And now, live from the Tri-Cities of Western North Carolina, this is the Forest City Tribune Podcast. Today's topic, enough with the impeachment bull. A frank discussion about recent topics about impeachment from the Republicans against President Obama. And now, here's John Thomas Hill. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is that time again of the year where there's nothing much really going on in the news, but somehow or another, Obama's done something that has pissed off the GOP to the point where, they got to go impeach him. For what? Benghazi? Bush had 8 attacks that killed American personnel. You didn't see the Democrats chomping at the bit to impeach him. Ronald Reagan had over 200 some odd Marines killed in Beirut at our barracks there. You didn't see Democrats chomping at the bit to impeach him for that. Impeachment is supposed to be one of those instruments of the Constitution that is so very rarely used and should only be used in the most extreme manners. And before Bill Clinton's impeachment back in 98, or was it 99? I think it was 99. No, it was late 98, okay. Here's the thing. It was only done twice before. Well, actually, done once before and threatened another time. Andrew Johnson, the president that took over for Abraham Lincoln after Lincoln died, was nearly convicted of an impeachment. Purely political motivated, because Johnson was a Tennessean, therefore a Southerner. He was seen as being someone that needed to be removed, and he barely avoided it by a single vote. But that's not really what I want to focus on. The one I want to focus on, by the way, the second one I talked about, Richard Nixon. If Richard Nixon hadn't resigned, it's very likely he would have been impeached and convicted. So, he very well got away from being the first president ever to be impeached and convicted. Bill Clinton was the first president in modern times to be impeached. He wasn't convicted. He didn't even come close to being convicted. You have to convict with a 2/3 majority. And the Republicans didn't even have anywhere close to that. They barely had a majority back then, but they still kept it going either way. And they eventually, I think, on the 2 charges, I think one they barely won with a bare minimum majority. I think the other they lost, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, they didn't even come close to getting 2/3 on any of them. It was political theater. Now, looking back at that, Bill Clinton could have avoided it by simply paying off Paula Jones back in the day. And then we would never have heard of Monica Lewinsky or any of the other people associated with this case. And but theoretically, a president lying under oath, I could sort of see the theory behind it. If he's going to lie under oath here, what about something much more important? At the same time, this trial, Paula Jones, was clearly politically motivated. There was no real need for it. And the fact of the matter was, President Clinton could have bought her off for a relatively small amount of money. I can't think it was like $850,000, I think it was. And they had that in the war fund. Trust me. But for some reason, Bill Clinton wanted to prevail in this case, which he inevitably did not. And it caused him more of a headache. But in the end, he was still one of the most popular presidents we've ever had at the end, because most people saw through what it really was, which was the Republicans tried to strong-arm a president out of office. Impeachment and conviction means a president is removed. This isn't something that's supposed to be taken lightly. So all the talk about impeaching Obama, it's taking what is a very important and what should be a very, very rarely used, and I mean rarely as in you're lucky if you even hear discussion of it in your lifetime. It has to do with high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, they've never really, the Constitution never really defines that specifically, but let's face it, high crimes and misdemeanors doesn't mean jaywalking across the street or going 64 and a 55, okay? You know, or as President Clinton did the other day, reaching over the sneeze guard at Chipotle. Now, if he'd asked for a chorito, or quesarito, I should say, at Chipotle, that might have convinced some people, Chipotle lovers, to go for impeachment. So, but no, he didn't do that. Here's the thing: all the talk about why they want to impeach him. First of all, this is the first. You know, anybody that wants to impeach him for Obamacare, well, Obamacare is so blurred in the visions of conservatives. They think it's socialized medicine. What it actually is basically a more regulated marketplace for health insurance. It's not national socialized health care. It's a marketplace. Businesses can offer their own plans in this marketplace. It means that pre-existing conditions are illegal. It means the playing field is somewhat leveled to a certain degree, but it is not free health insurance, which is what the right wing wants you to believe Obamacare is. Obamacare is not an insurance policy; it's a marketplace. The insurance industry hates it because they want to make the rules. They don't want the government to tell them how to operate the rules. But here's the problem: if you leave it entirely up to the insurance industry, the consumer loses. It's been proven. That's why the government regulates, to make sure the consumer's interests are represented. But these corporations, these insurance companies, have enough pull in the Republican Party to make it enough of these conservative PACs and super PACs and what have you, to muddy the waters enough to make you think Obamacare was almost as bad as socialism in the Soviet sense. But here's the problem: it's not an impeachable offense. You lose a policy vote, and you lose a court case. Doesn't mean you can just throw a president out on his can because he passed a policy you don't like. The Fast and Furious, you really can't get him for that because there's this thing called Iran-Contra that Ronald Reagan might have been impeached for had the Democrats gone after him for it. And I remember that, and I remember thinking that Reagan could very well have been in very serious trouble. And there were a couple of Republican friends of mine in '87 when all this was going down that were scared that this could result in impeachment, and the fact that George Herbert Walker Bush or any other Republican may not want to run in '88 or might not be able to win in '88 because of Iran-Contra. It turned out the Democrats really didn't have the guts to go after Reagan the way they probably should have. And if you don't know, basically we traded arms for hostages. We traded money. We sent money to, or no, we basically sent arms to Iran for hostages, and Iran sent them to Nicaragua to help the Contra revolution. Or I should say the Sandinista revolution against the Contras. So, the problem with all of this, and I may have gotten that wrong to a degree, but basically it was we were trading arms for hostages. That's not a very smart thing, because especially if you're conservative and you're supposed to be taking a tough stance against a perceived enemy of the United States. So, Ronald Reagan got lucky there. If the Democrats of today were in control of the House and Senate back then, and the atmosphere was as it is today, I think they might have pulled the trigger on it. And I've always thought there was more to Iran-Contra than what we found out about back then. And the fact was Reagan was getting up in years. His health was starting to decline. There were reports, even back then, before he made it official in 92, I think it was 92, I believe. No, it was 94, that he had Alzheimer's. There were reports he was having memory problems back late his White House days. So now, what is all this hubbub about impeaching Obama? It's basically a talking point. It's basically, hey, we don't like Obama, and it's the political equivalent of saying, hey, he's doing really bad things, when in fact we don't really, it's not that he's doing bad things, it's we don't like what he's doing. None of what they have mentioned is worth impeachment. Because had Obama sent our troops into a war under false pretenses, like his predecessor, then you might have an argument. And that is the rub. A lot of what you're seeing about these attacks of Obama and wanting to impeach him is the fact that there were liberals back during the Bush administration, the W administration, that cried for impeachment because of the Iraq War and Gitmo and other things. Now, it's hard to say whether or not going to war is an impeachable offense, but you have to remember, Bush went under the pretense that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. To this day, those claims have pretty much been written off, because the only thing they ever really found was inert sarin gas, about 50 canisters that were many years old. And the thing is, if that's all you find, where's the rest? Well, they said, some conservative news outlets like Fox News said, well, it was moved to Syria. Well, where in Syria was it? We didn't go after them? The whole Iraq War was not about weapons of mass destruction. Partly it was because W hated the fact that Saddam Hussein threatened to kill his father, the former President Bush. Now, was this ever actually going to happen? The evidence I remember reading about back then was shaky at best. If Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un, the new leader of North Korea, says, I don't like Obama, I'm going to go have somebody shoot him. Does that mean we go and attack North Korea because they said they want to kill our president? No. Now, if there was evidence that they were planning to do just that, and a plan was imminent, and we foiled it, then, yeah. But just saying that they wanted to kill him, Saddam wanted to have the former President Bush killed, not good enough. And the weapons of mass destruction argument was bogus. It ruined the career of Colin Powell because Colin Powell had to essentially defend a lie that he was told was the truth. They lied to their own Secretary of State. So, the President of the United States back then sent men and women into war to invade a country for the only reason of, well, we don't like their leader and we want to supposedly stabilize the country. Have you seen the news lately? This ISIS group is raising hell over there. And the conservatives want to blame Obama for it because he pulled our troops out in 2011. However, if you remember your history, Bush signed that agreement to pull the troops out in 2011. All Obama did was abide by that agreement that a Republican president signed. The reason we left was that the Iraqis did not want us there anymore. Okay? They didn't want us there anymore. They wanted us to go home. It was time. And what happened? We went home. They seemingly had things under control. Reality, they didn't. Not as much as they'd like to claim. ISIS is the successor to the old Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Basically, ISIS has been kicked out of Al-Qaeda because they are a hell of a lot more extreme than Al-Qaeda, and that's saying a lot. But should we impeach Obama because he was simply upholding a deal that his predecessor, a Republican president, signed off on? It's rather silly, don't you think? Oh, but there's, of course, the imagined controversies and scandals and such. The IRS deal. Look, have you really looked into these non-profit groups that are actually political groups for the right wing? Yeah. If anything, the IRS didn't go after them harder than they did. They should have went after them harder. They didn't go after them hard enough. But in the distorted eyes of conservative media, the fact they dared to go after these groups because they wanted to break the law, is treason in their eyes. Pardon me. It's stupid. It really is. The arguments for impeachment, it's the same. It's basically going, we don't like the guy, so we're going to impeach him. Well, you don't have enough votes to convict. Why impeach somebody if the Democrats control the Senate? And even if you win the Senate in 2014, later this year, and you're not going to have enough votes to convict. There won't be enough Democrats to do it. And if you do that, guess what's going to happen in 2020? 16, or you're going to lose the general election because Democrats are going to be pissed off. They're going to be mad as hell that you are basically going after a lame duck president, essentially. And now you got Boehner wanting to sue Obama because Obama is using executive orders to actually enact some of his policies, which, by the way, other presidents, Democrats and Republicans, have done before him. But since it's Obama, this is an abomination, pun intended, and thus he has to be stopped, because if he isn't stopped, the United States will collapse into the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and Canada and Mexico will be separated by a brand new American sea. Or something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I could sit here and say, well, it's part of it's racial. Is there a racial element to it? Of course there is. How much of it is racial, I really don't know. But there is some of it that is. Most of it, however, is the simple fact that the Republicans have a Tea Party bunch of maniacs who think that all government is completely evil and that they should be able to do whatever they want. They should be able to carry whatever weapon they want. They should be able to do whatever their hearts desire and screw everybody else. When in fact, of course, as long as you're not gay or anything like that, then the government's got to tell you not to do anything. Have you ever researched the real roots of the Tea Party and who's really funding them? It's not really a grassroots organization. There's a lot of dark money that's going into these so-called grassroots Tea Party movements. So yeah, there's some funny business going on. But there's a lot of people who listen to conservative talk radio and they eat it up like candy. They think Obama's the Antichrist. They think he's Satan. They think he's going to destroy America. First of all, the whole birth certificate thing. Don't you think Hillary Clinton... You know how bad Hillary wanted to be president in 2008? She felt it was her divine right to be president in 2008. If she found this out, she would have used it in a heartbeat. Yes, she would have. But it never came to pass. Why? Because it ain't true. He was born in Hawaii. Hawaii was U.S. territory back then. But, of course, they got to go after him because he's a black guy that they don't like, because he wasn't supposed to win that election, because only Republicans are allowed to win elections in this country, according to Fox News and conservative talk radio. Obama upset the apple cart. So they basically decided, well, we're going to basically raise hell. And 2010, Tea Party had success because the liberals stayed home because Obama didn't give them everything they wanted. Why? Because the liberals have historically stayed home in midterm elections. That's the problem. They can't do it this time. But something's going to come up, and you're going to have, well, Obama's not doing... He can't do hardly anything because the Republican Congress, Republican House will not even talk to him. It's ridiculous. I've never seen a Congress this gridlocked, this openly hostile to a president. I mean, even the Democrats and Reagan could work together on some things. Hell, the Republicans and Bill Clinton worked on some things and got a balanced budget done. Of course, that went all to hell when Bush took over. But that's beside the point, because they manufactured a recession, and they had to have a stimulus, which is why you got those $300 checks, which actually cost more money than actually went back. It was stupid. It really was. Don't even get me started on that. It's just asinine the way that they keep saying, well, Obama's the enemy. Obama, look. I was talking to somebody earlier today and they said, well, the stimulus was Obama. Look, the stimulus didn't work because pretty much there were several states whose Republican governors did not want to have anything to do with it. Some eventually took the money, but a lot of it was basically either misspent by the states or basically shunted away somewhere else. The fact of the matter is, they love to blame Obama for everything under the sun. Pardon the expression, but he's their whipping boy. Yeah, he is. They'll blame him for everything. Why? Because it's convenient. And they got the Limbaughs, the Hannitys, and all these other conservative right-wing talk show hosts who have nothing else better to do in their lives but to harangue, and you know, I've listened to some of it, and I'm thinking to myself, do these people who listen to this ever actually stop for a moment and go, is any of this actually true? No, but because they don't really like Obama, they have to bash him. It's like Obama. Look, there are damn good reasons why W was hated by Democrats. First of all, the fact that he won the presidency in a way that was kind of iffy. And the fact that he didn't even bother to... he acted like he had a mandate when in fact he really didn't. And the smartest thing he could have done was to actually work with Democrats. But the fact was, he didn't even bother. He acted like, well, I'm president, that means anything goes. When he got in by a hair of a margin. And then 9/11 comes along, which should have been a great moment to unify this country and the world in the fight against terrorism. What happened? The Republicans basically set out the Patriot Acts and all these other things that basically divided our country. They said, if you don't agree with the president, you're a traitor. If you don't agree with anything the president does, you're un-American. You're not unpatriotic. You're a traitor, and you should be shot. That was what was going on 11, 12 years ago, folks. I remember it all too well. And Republicans made it out like Bush was doing absolutely everything right, when in fact he wasn't. Yeah, we had every right to go in Afghanistan to go after against the Taliban because they were supporting Al-Qaeda. Yeah, we had that right. They went after us. The world were perfectly fine with us going in there. It wasn't pretty. We got the job done, but we're still stuck there. And then, for some reason, in the weeks after 9/11, Fox News decided, and the conservative media decided to find some way, shape, or form to tie Saddam Hussein into this. Okay? Saddam had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. Nothing. The only thing he did was cheer, because his big bad enemy, the United States of America, got clocked on the chin. The fact was, they had wanted an excuse to go into Iraq anyway. That's what they wanted. They were pretty much planning on finding a way to go in there. This gave them the opportunity. Did they manufacture evidence to support what they were doing? Pretty much. I mean, what can you say? To me, it's like, how the hell can you say that they're completely innocent? They're not. They're not at all. They manufactured all of this to go in there, and it killed over 4,000 of our soldiers, countless Iraqis, most of them innocent. And now it's killing even more because now we're out of there, and instead of having to deal with a stable situation with a guy we didn't like, it's a whole lot worse. It's going to become a civil war over there. A lot more people are going to get killed. And it could tear apart the region. And guess what? It is Bush's fault. It's not Obama's fault. Obama was abiding by what the Iraqis wanted to do in an agreement that Bush signed. So it is Bush's fault. What, Obama's supposed to break an agreement that the president before him signed and make us all look bad? You know what would have happened if he'd broken that agreement? The conservative media would have jumped down and started, oh, he's keeping our troops there even longer. He's going to get more of our American troops killed. He's mismanaging the war. The fact is, could he have done better with all this? Probably. But the fact is, this is an unwinnable situation. No matter what he tried to do, you're going into a neck of the woods that is already unstable because we made it unstable. The government there is unstable. Syria is unstable. You have this ISIS group that's basically Al-Qaeda on steroids, essentially. They're so ruthless that Al-Qaeda denounced them. Freaking Al-Qaeda denounced them. And this is somehow Obama's fault. And now, Vladimir Putin is making inroads, trying to harass Ukraine, and you're blaming Obama for it. Have you seen how Bush dealt with Putin back in the day? Yes, you can blame Bush for that too. He didn't really take Russia seriously. I remember there were people who said Bush was not dealing with Russia in a very serious manner in the sense of treating them as a power. Vladimir Putin took offense to that, the way he was treated. It was basically like, oh, Russia's just a has-been country. That, guess what? They ain't has-been anymore. There were a lot of miscalculations the Bush administration. And I'll say this, Obama should have done better with Russia too. Does that mean he should be impeached? No. The whole thing about impeachment is the biggest bunch of garbage. It's a cheap excuse to rattle cages, to get people pissed off, to make think, oh, he's a bad guy. In all honesty, and the Republican establishment really doesn't like this. They don't. It may score a few brownie points, but you see, the problem is, and this is the thing you don't understand, there are powers behind the Tea Party that want to basically make it to where, they essentially want to run the country. They want to buy the government essentially with campaign contributions, and they want to make it to where nobody can stop them. They want to get rid of campaign finance limits. They want to get rid of. They want to basically make it to where, they can lie to you in a campaign ad that's not even endorsed by the candidate whose opponent is getting slammed in that ad. There's a case that it's going before the Supreme Court out of Ohio, that that anti-abortion group is saying, yeah, we want to say we can lie, we have the right to lie in ads. But they want to impeach Obama. It's stupid. It's because they don't like Obama. They don't want to work with Obama. They want to have a Republican president, and because the American people had the audacity to reelect Obama, they've decided, well, we're gonna basically make them pay. Guess what? When all is said and done, and all the history books are written, the Tea Party, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Fox News, conservative talk media are going to be looked as whores, political whores for the Koch brothers, the Walton family, the Sheldon Adelsons of the world, other big spending conservative corporate political people who basically don't like democracy. They want to run their businesses, and how dare the American people stick their nose in their business. Yeah, we can pollute because we have the money to make government not stop us from polluting. Why is it in Pennsylvania that the health department can't even talk to you about possible illnesses due to fracking? In North Carolina, they've made it illegal to disclose the chemicals used in the fracking process because it's so quote-unquote trade secrets. You're shooting this garbage into our groundwater. And we're not supposed to know what the hell's in it. We're supposed to just stand by and let this garbage take place. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with it because it's a blatant out-and-out lie. They want to impeach Obama because they want a smokescreen to make you think Obama's the Antichrist, when in reality they're the ones that are the Antichrist. They're the ones that are tearing this country apart. They're tearing this damn world apart because they know they are causing all this climate damage. They know it. They damn well know it. But they don't want you to know it. They want you to believe that 97% of the scientists who study climatology are wrong. They want to say the 3%, and I think it's an overestimation that's even 3%. That's probably a lot less than that. Are right. Is it entirely man-made? Maybe not, but there is a lot of evidence saying that we helped the process. And even if it's not entirely man-made, hell, it's happening. Why aren't we doing something to stop it? Oh, because it's natural. We shouldn't have to. We can't stop it. It's the quote-unquote will of God. Hello, a lot of our cities on the coast, Miami, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, Hampton Roads, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Goes on and on, all up the eastern coast, and that's just the east coast of the United States, folks. All the coastal cities in the world are going to be affected by climate change when the seas start to rise, perhaps even as soon as later in this century. But we'll all be dead by then, so why should we worry? Our children won't be, probably. Our grandchildren certainly won't be. And our great-grandchildren will have to deal with it. So you're telling me we should pass it off onto them. Typical Republican. Republicans love to say, well, we like cutting spending. No, you don't. Every time a Republican administration has been in office, they've left with a whole hell of a lot more debt on the country. Democrats, less so. Because tax and spend, at least you know what it's being paid as you go. The Republicans want to borrow. They didn't care about debt until Obama got in office. Now all of a sudden, the debt's a big problem. It's never a problem until a Democrat gets in the White House. They whined about it when Clinton was in office. Clinton balances the budget. As soon as a Republican gets in the White House, we don't care about the debt anymore. So what about the deficit? We don't care. We got stuff to do. And thanks to the two wars, one of which was completely unnecessary, the other should have been wrapped up in 6 months to a year, but instead is still going on. We've spent trillions of dollars that we could have spent here in the United States on helping the economy, on creating jobs, on teaching our children, instead of selling it out to private education firms that basically just want to make a buck. And to hell with standards. Or they want you to pretend they're actually hitting the standards, but they're not. I could go on and on about this. You're wanting to impeach Obama. You want to know why you want to impeach Obama? Because you simply don't like him. And that ain't cool. If there were a lot of people who hated Reagan back in the day, did the Democrats try to impeach Reagan because they didn't like him? No. It started in the Clinton administration because Clinton had the audacity to win the election. The American people had the audacity to vote for this guy, and they did everything in the book to try and smear him. The whole Whitewater thing came to nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's some flim-flam real estate deal. It never came to anything. Am I thinking Clinton is a clean... Hell no, he's not a clean guy. Every politician, for the most part, in some way, shape, or form, that makes it on the national scene has dirt under their fingernails. In some way, shape, or form. Do I think Obama's clean as a whistle? Hell no. He's from Chicago, his political machine. Of course he's done some things that may not exactly be kosher, but hell... But here's the problem. Here's the thing. He's not from Kenya. That's been proven. He is who he says he is. He's not a Muslim. He's a Christian. His daddy may have been a Muslim, but that doesn't mean he's a Muslim. He's not a socialist. Funny thing is, if he's a socialist, then why is the stock market so damn high? Why are companies recording record profits during his administration? He's such a damn socialist. I mean, let's face it. They had the Congress, both houses of Congress, and the White House for the first 2 years of Obama's term. They could have done a whole hell of a lot if they wanted to. Instead, they barely got Obamacare through. In a lot of ways, Obama's at fault for the whole rise of the Tea Party because he didn't go after them. He wanted to be the nice guy. He wanted to be the statesman. He wanted to work with the Republican Party who didn't give a damn about him. They just realized this is somebody they could use to make into some sort of, oh my God, this guy's going to destroy America, and we gotta protect this country against him. Why? Well, just trust us. He's going to destroy America. He's coming after your guns. He's been in office for 5 years. Has he come after your guns yet? No. Has he declared martial law? No. He's had plenty of chances. He never did. Think about it. You still got your guns, right? Oh, that's because the NRA's... All he has to do is declare martial law, dissolve Congress, declare a state of emergency, get all your guns. What can you do about it? He ain't done it, folks. He ain't going to do it. Why? Because he is a president, not a dictator. So stop listening to the Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity's, and all these other right-wing wackos who make the government into some evil, dark force that would make Darth Vader look like a nice guy, and Emperor Palpatine look like a progressive leader. Take your tinfoil hats off. Stop listening to Alex Jones, because Alex Jones is a moron who has to cook up conspiracy theories to pay for his radio show and to pay for his house and his family's food and clothing and whatnot. He's just a dude trying to make a living being an ass. And people buy into what he's selling. Why? Because, hey, it makes money. You get people pissed off, and most people aren't going to bother to take the time to actually read from actual real media sites. I've read some of these conservative sites, some of the lamest so-called journalism I've ever seen. If it were any more slanted, it'd be a flat line. Okay? So whenever I hear the term liberal media, it's being mainstream media that actually is sort of kind of resembling old-style journalism, but in actuality is corporate-owned journalism that doesn't really want to be in trouble. There are only 6 media outlets, 6 media companies, 6 corporations, I should say, that own major media companies in this country now. 6 of them. Used to be at least 3 dozen, or at least 3 dozen before Reagan. I'll say 2.5 dozen. I think it was around 30. So in the 34 years since Reagan got elected, we've seen a shrinkage of media companies from 30 to 6. They're owned by major corporations that are diversified, that have their fingers in all sorts of things. They don't want you to know the real truth. They want you to focus on the story from their perspective. And a lot of times, these so-called liberal media actually leans more right than you think. But it's all about impeaching Obama because Obama's evil. Really? He is a scapegoat, pure and simple. You don't have a job? Sure, it's Obama's fault, even though the Republicans haven't even bothered to try to pass a jobs bill. Even the Republicans who haven't even bothered to extend unemployment, even though economists have said that would be a smart thing to do, that actually might add jobs to the economy, because guess what? If people can spend some money, it actually goes in the economy and may actually stimulate job production. Oh, but we can't increase social programs like Medicare, Medicaid. We can't increase food stamps and all this, even though it does help a lot of people. And the fraud is relatively minimal if it's ridiculously small, especially in an EBT card. In a lot of cases, most of that so-called fraud is actually for something that is relative. Like, I've heard this happen before. People have given their card to other people to use for money in exchange for a phone card for a Straight Talk phone or whatever prepaid phone they have. I guess they couldn't get an Obama phone. Oh, right, that's right. George W. Bush started that program, but we call it the Obama phone. Because it's a cliche. Obama phone sounds better than a Bush phone. Even though the original program for it started under Reagan. Not for cell phones, but for landlines for low-income people. But the truth's inconvenient. We don't need the truth. You can't handle the truth. The truth is what we tell you. The truth is what Rush Limbaugh goes on about for 3 hours every day from 12 to 3. The truth is what Sean Hannity says from 3 to 6. The truth is what this person, Mike Huckabee, Rusty Humphreys, Bill Cunningham, whoever else is out there. It's garbage. Find this stuff out for yourself. I'm not saying you should have to believe every little thing I say. Do your research. Go to conservative sites. Go to liberal sites. Go to independent sites. Go to mainstream media. Go find this story. Sift through it all. Read between the lines, and you'll find out that, guess what? Conservative media are a whole lot more biased than any liberal media has ever been. Why? Because conservative media have the biggest agenda of them all. They want you to basically sign away your democratic rights. They want you to condemn the Democrats to the ash heap of history because they don't want democracy. They want an oligarchy. Corporate rule with a veneer of a theocracy to make it sound moral. And I'm going to one day talk about my disdain for religion and politics. It is like fingernails on a chalkboard. It, to me, is the worst thing that someone could do, is put politics and religion together. And I think once things... Here's the situation. I don't know if I'm going to have internet this weekend because I'm catching up on bills and things are kind of tight. So I don't know if I'm going to have internet. But as soon as we get it back up, I may have it tomorrow. I may still have it tomorrow, and if I can do a show, I'll do a show. If not, well, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know when we'll get it back up. But here's the thing. I'm going to do my best to get it back up as soon as possible. The reason I want to get it back up is I want to continue to do stuff like this. Not to make you come over to my side necessarily. If you do, fine, that's your business. I just want you to think. I want you to question. Okay? Question what you're being told. Have you ever listened to Rush Limbaugh's show and a liberal caller call in? He almost shuts them up almost immediately. It's almost as if he talks over them. He never gives them a chance to actually... And that's the reason I can't stand Rush Limbaugh. It's because he doesn't want you to know the truth. He doesn't want another viewpoint. He wants you to listen to his viewpoint and the viewpoint of those who support him. It's all about one side and making sure that other side doesn't get heard because it's demonized, it's comparable to the devil, it's anti-Christ, all of that. It's pathetic. And I've said this before. Politics and religion should not mix. And the fact that they are mixing and have been mixing for a third of a century now is a very dangerous thing and has been a very dangerous thing. There is a reason why Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and so many of our founding fathers believed so strongly in the separation of church and state. They were not that all far removed from the religious wars back in Europe back in the day. They understood what the Catholic Church was doing with all the kingdoms over there, meddling in their business and basically creating their own power base. And then when the Protestants came up to challenge that, they had to be crushed. And back when we were an English colony, the Anglican Church was quite powerful. Isn't it like it is today, where they really have only nominal political authority at all, and basically it's mainly more or less a figurehead, sort of like Queen Elizabeth, who's the head of the Anglican Church, but in reality is nothing more than a figurehead. The real political power is in the House of Commons. But there are people who want to make America a theocracy, not because they want to bring Christ back and to do things out of the pureness of their Christian spirit, but because it's a whole lot easier to control people when they're afraid they're going to go to jail for some religious charge, when, in fact, what's going on behind the scenes is corporate America, not all corporations are like this, but the vast majority want to make America a third world country because it's cheaper. That's why they bash unions. That's why they don't want to raise the minimum wage. They don't want high-paying jobs to begin with for average folks, because average folks can get involved in their community if they make enough money and can actually think beyond paying their bills. They don't want people to have the ability to actually have a really good life unless you're born into it, unless you're one of the elite. And they talk about conservative elites, or I should say liberal elites. Conservative elites are much more powerful and in some cases much more dangerous to democracy than these so-called liberal elites. It's not some sort of Illuminati, Brandenburg kind of conspiracy. It's out there right for you to see. Why is it they don't want you to know what political campaigns they're contributing to, what political action committees are contributing to? Why is it they want to keep things quiet, but yet they're more than happy to spend their money on it? Money they could spend on actually, paying workers what they're worth. That actually could do a lot more good in the economy. But of course, we can't regulate because that would be un-American to them. We can't tell businesses what to do. But that's the problem. American government is supposed to be a buffer between business and the consumer and the employee. It's supposed to have the consumer and the employee's best interest, because they can't but in so many years now, government has been turned away from being an advocate for consumers and employees to being a tool of these same corporate powers. That's why union power has been eroded so dramatically. That's why Nikki Haley out in South Carolina says, we don't want union jobs here, even though realistically union jobs could come there, but because of the right to work law, you wouldn't have to join a union. They just don't want to give people the power to form a union, to actually have collective bargaining to improve their lives. Has union power been abused in the past? Absolutely. There's a reason why unions are in the shape they're in right now. But it's been overcorrection. Instead of trying to balance it out, corporate powers that be has basically decided that they have to win the battle once for all, because they gave in to the unions back in the day. They didn't like that, so now they got to get rid of the unions. Pure and simple. That's not how it should be. They want the people ignorant. They want you to question. They want you to listen to Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity's, get your blood pressure. Oh, Obama's evil. Obama's this, Obama's that. Wave your Gadsden flag. Be a Tea Partier because you're going to be changing the country into a theocratic oligarchy where you really will not have any voice at all. But they will pretend you have a voice. They'll make you think you have a voice. But in reality, you're not. And you will be wondering, well, why am I not making any more money? Why are jobs still hard to come by? Why is prices still going up? Why is gas still going up? I can't make ends meet. But it's Obama's fault. But no, wait a minute. He's not in office anymore. We impeached him. We impeached Biden. We got our own people together. Guess what's going to happen if you put a Republican in the White House, a Republican in the controlled Senate, a Republican-controlled House? They're not going to give a damn about abortion. They're going to rattle around going, oh, we got to stop abortion, we got to stop abortion, we got to stop gay marriage. But they're never really going to do anything about it. Not because they want to have it around to where if the Democrats start looking like the elections, ooh, the Democrats, the gay-loving, abortion-loving Democrats are going to not win an election. We got to scare you. The bullshit is there. The whole Obama impeachment thing is a smokescreen. It's to distract you from what they really want to do. And that is to basically completely deregulate the government. They want to get rid of the IRS. They don't have to pay any corporate taxes whatsoever. But they got to have a national defense. They got to have some. So your income tax will probably go up after all. There'll be some new federal revenue service that will, income taxes, by the way, aren't going to go away, but yours will go up, but it'll be some evil government thing that does that, even though we got rid of the IRS. But because they demonize the IRS, oh, this new agency's perfectly fine, even though your taxes went up, even though you're paying more sales taxes, even though you're paying more income taxes. But, oh, well, taxes aren't really that high because Mitt Romney's taxes actually went down. It's stupid. Do you realize that during the Reagan administration, he actually increased taxes nearly a dozen times? None of the rich folks that got the real tax break back in the early 80s, but on middle class folks and poor folks. Why? Because he had the revenue that he claimed was going to come in because the trickle-down economics didn't come in, and he had to pay, at least start trying to pay for what he was spending his money on. Because they don't really want to cut spending. They may want to cut it on social programs, but not on their precious defense programs, which, of course, if they really ever truly audited the Defense Department, I wonder how much waste they would find. Truly, how much waste they would find. But that'll never happen. So, stop with the impeachment crap. Don't like the guy. Doesn't mean you can kick him out because, hey, there's an election in 2.5 years. You can try and bring in your own Republican president. Have you seen the field yet, though? Have you seen a lot of support for Hillary? Of course, that didn't work 8 years ago, so, maybe Elizabeth Warren will run after all. Or somebody else we don't even see come up and win. And then you got to deal with, I will laugh if Hillary Clinton becomes president. Because we're going to hear the same bull crap over and over and over again. Instead of Barack Obama being the evil one, it's going to be Hillary Clinton. When in fact, you got to start working together. At least find some common ground. But that ain't going to happen because the Tea Party has made it to where compromising with the dirty Democrats is tantamount to treason. Can't have that. So, that's our show. I went a long time, one of my longest shows in a long time. I wanted to thank you folks for tuning in. I do not know if we'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, things are very tight. I don't know if my internet's going to be cut off tomorrow or Friday. I've got to hopefully pay it. Hopefully, I'll be able to pay it on Friday before it gets cut off, so I don't have to pay a reconnection fee. So, yeah. Cross your fingers, cross your toes. Here we go. Maybe, just maybe, just maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to pay it off. So, who knows? I'm hoping. So, anyhow, that's it for now. Have a great night, folks. And as we always say here, good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.